Welcome back to my channel. I am your favorite mama of three, bougie vintage, and today's video is another facing the facts. However, this is a single entry submission. So sometimes I get these emails and they're like super duper long but really detailed and quite frankly really important subjects. And so this one has one hell of a story, so we might even title this story time, girl, okay? And we're all gonna be reacting together because I haven't really read it, but I see that it's a doozy, okay? She included pictures and everything. I don't know if I should include the pictures or not. We will see. So this is called Meeting Him. Hey, Bo. First off, I just want to say I love you. Love you too. I've watched you for years, laughed at your videos, and listened to all the tea. Thank you for all that you do. Much love. My story is pretty lengthy, even though I left a lot of aspects out and is a bit different from the ones you've probably heard about narcissistic relationships. I can't say that I was a victim of direct abuse, but even just meeting and getting to know this individual warped my world. Here's my story about meeting him. So she also included like asterisks and said *** equals red flags I realized post rabbit hole. In 2017, I was a senior in college and I made the decision to study abroad in Athens, Greece. It was the best decision I ever made for myself. I discovered my love for travel, I widened my horizon to a new culture, made precious memories, new friendships, and I was truly transformed as a person. While I was having the time of my life abroad, my relationship with my boyfriend back at home was becoming unstable. Communication was lessened due to my focus shift on my studies, along with building new relationships, planning travels over the country, submerging myself in new culture, going on excursions, and cough cough clubbing on the weekends. I became the college girl that I never really got the chance to be. I was always on go mode. My physical body even let me know several times I was doing too much, to the point where I started sleepwalking. Scary, I know. I don't know nobody that sleepwalks. Oh, Nola. Nola kind of sleepwalks, actually. Nola kind of sleepwalks, and she talks in her sleep. Overall, my boyfriend and I went through spurts of non-communication while I was abroad. The very last week of my studies, we had one of our biggest fights. I was sure we were done for good. In my mind, I thought I would arrive back home to the US single, and I came to terms with that. The day I met Rodrigo was like any other day abroad. I was working hard in the computer lab on a final assignment for the semester. As I was working to finish the assignment, I felt eyes on me. I float my gaze to a guy diagonal to my computer. We locked eyes. "Can you give me some help with the assignment?" he playfully asked and smiled. I nod and say, "Sure." I walked over to his side of the row of computers and sat next to him. I explained to him my best ability how the professor wanted us to construct the project. He nods and is silent for a second and says, "Well, I'm just going to do it this way," and smirks. I smile, and in my mind I say to myself, this dude is ridiculous. We both laughed. So my first identifying a red flag here is that he was charming. The narcs are charmers, okay? And who else needs charm? Snakes, okay? There's a snake charmer, a narc charmer, okay? Narcs are charmers, period. Later on, after class, he stopped me in the hallway and asked me if I would like to hang out with him sometime. In my mind, I'm a newly single woman and I'm in Greece, okay? Rodrigo seemed so charming. You can't make this up. Charming, okay? That's why even if a narc is ugly, but he charming, girl, you're in for a treat. A bad treat, but a treat nonetheless. And was not bad on the eyes. And yeah, they don't even have to be so damn fine. If they're just like a little bit, like they're not ugly, so they can be ugly, but they're super charming and funny, so they get what they want. But typically, the narcissist is attractive at least to one person, okay? Maybe two people, you know what I mean? So I agreed to hang out with him. We exchanged social media and made plans to catch up later. It was my very last evening in Greece. I would board the plane to start my journey back to Texas in the morning. It was also the very same evening Rodrigo and I planned to spend time together. We agreed to meet at a popular college restaurant just streets away from our campus. He picks me up in his small blue European car. I immediately feel nervous. First of all, I'm not getting in nobody's car. I'm not getting in nobody's car. Maybe I'll meet you at the restaurant. My thoughts to myself were anxiously asking, how and why are you getting into this unknown guy's car and going to an unknown place by yourself? I never envisioned myself making this type of decision, but I went for it because when in Greece, right? No. No. During my time abroad, I took photos and snaps everywhere I went to capture my experiences. My time with Rodrigo was no exception to this. I wanted to document my experience, send to my friends, and also for my safety. I wanted proof of where I was and who I was with if anything were to happen to me. He greets me when I enter the car. I sit in the passenger seat and he starts driving. Immediately, I think to myself, oh gosh, I hope he's not the aggressive speed away driver type. During the beginning of the ride, it felt like just that. He drove with speed. So much speed that I vividly remember us almost hitting a parked motorcyclist at a red light because Rodrigo stopped too short behind him. It was very close. To the point where he had asked, girl, you wouldn't survive a day in Jamaica. You wouldn't survive a day in Jamaica. To the point where he asked if I was okay after braking. I mentioned to him somewhere along the lines of me not enjoying fast driving, and afterwards he drove less aggressively. Aggressive driving is actually a sign. But she put that here from Dr. Romani. If you guys know who that is, she's like one of the top people on YouTube that speak about narcissistic abuse. So, yeah, aggressive driving, which I experienced quite a bit, especially if there was any kind of argument or I said something they didn't like in the car. They would always start speeding and I would be like, what you gonna do, kill us both? And then he would laugh and stop driving so damn crazy. Because it just became a pattern. Like I noticed it the first time, like we got mad, it was okay, and then when it happened more than once, I was like, okay, so this is what you do. So then you start calling it out and then they don't do it, because if you call it out, they realize, she's catching on. Gotta shed my skin and do something else now. We made loose plans to drive around Athens and sightsee. Rodrigo took me to the most beautiful spots along the coast of the Mediterranean, and in those moments I felt like I was dreaming. We stopped at a hiking trail that overlooked the sea. He told me he and his friends would come to this spot to work out and enjoy the view. I understood why. It was gorgeous. We sat on a bench watching the coast as we talked and got to know each other. He was pleasant and I felt as though I was becoming more comfortable with him. Although I was feeling more at ease, in the back of my mind, I still felt a little anxious. Because you're in the middle of nowhere with a strange man, of course you're gonna feel anxious. And you have no escape plan because you ain't come in your own car. It's one thing to follow behind him. I don't know if you guys are actually to meet at a public place, a little restaurant, you know, get some grub. But you got into this man's car and he has you driving and sightseeing. Next thing you know, you're at the bottom of the damn Mediterranean. Ma'am, get it together. Like, what is this? But the sights was beautiful. Okay, she included the pictures. I'm not going to leave y'all out. Y'all going to see these pictures. Let me just save them for now. Just screenshot. Okay, my good sis was like, well, hell, if this man abducts me and murders me, at least I got to see Athens. At least I got to see Greece. So another red flag she's highlighting here with her little asterisk is anxiety within myself. Trying to feel comfortable around him, but still having conflicting thoughts. Thinking back, this could have been my intuition. Oh no, it couldn't have been your intuition. It was your intuition. We leave the trail and begin to drive around again, seeing the city, listening to music. During our conversations, he suggests we go swimming at a private beach. Yes, so he can drown you, ma'am. I politely declined. Oh, good for you. I wasn't prepared to swim. I didn't bring my bathing suit or any change of clothes for that matter. And he was hoping you was going to get in there butt naked, okay? I don't remember the exact way our conversation went or if he had offered to take me home to change to swim, but we ended up going to the swimming spot he suggested anyway, no matter the fact that I was not prepared. I believe with me being so passive, I probably agreed to just wade in the shallows and dip my feet in. So then she put 3 more asterisks and put inconsiderate, and she put boundary crossing. Because if I said I'm not prepared to swim, why are you taking me to the water anyway? But then it's like, why did I allow him to take me to the water anyway? If I said I'm not prepared to swim, probably because you're feeling anxious, you were like, I don't want to upset this person because I really don't know what their plans are to do with me and my body. So let me just say, okay, well, you know, even though I can't go in, yeah, I'll just go, I'll just dip my feet in, you know, I can get my ankles wet. We drove to his home so that he could pick up his swim trunks and change. His home was big and beautiful. He explained that his father bought the house and they were just now moving in. He walked me into the entryway and I stood in the foyer to wait for him to change. Girl, you risked it and God was with you, because how are you just going to this random house? Like, what if he came out the back dressed in like some butcher outfit and ready to chop you up? Like, what if it was giving Dexter vibes? What if you got there and the inside of the house was like covered in plastic? Okay, I watch too much TV, I'm sorry. I actually don't watch a lot of TV, but it's neither here nor there. As I'm waiting, I admire the grand stairway with the gold railing and marble floors throughout the whole layout. The house was immaculate and I had only seen the front entrance. It is pretty gorgeous. Okay, girl, yeah, let me screenshot these pictures too. Somebody's gonna be like, how the hell how did my Airbnb get on this YouTube video? Oh my gosh. So then she highlights self-serving and grandiose. Now looking back, I realized that the events of this day were driven with a motive. Sure were, okay. It was like his mind was saying, let me find a reason to take her back to my home and show off what my family has established and show her what type of money we have. His parents are probably out of the damn country right now, and he's not even supposed to be at the damn house, okay? He meets me downstairs, ready to go, and we head to the beach. So, like, he drove to his house to get his swim trunks, but didn't take her to go get her stuff. And even though she said she's just gonna dip her feet in, I mean, if you're taking yourself back to your house to get your swim trunks, like, and I said I'm not even gonna get in the water, what is the point of that? Why aren't we both just dipping our feet in? Or just not going, you know what I mean? Fast forward, we made it to the beach and we had a good conversation in the car right there. We were about to get out of the car and all of a sudden, Rodrigo leans over to kiss me. I turn my cheek and he tries adamantly again. He was forceful and handsy. I made it a point to him that I didn't want him to kiss me, and I immediately could feel his energy change. Ma'am, this man's probably a damn serial killer, okay? You were spared. For whatever reason, the angels was with you that day, girl, because this is crazy. I immediately could feel his energy change, a change I will never forget. I could tell the rejection made him feel some type of way beyond normal. Like he felt like he deserved the kiss and I had taken it away from him. We got out of the car and he was very standoffish. I could tell he was upset. Just because you didn't drove me around to here and there and had me look at the damn ocean, you think you need a kiss now, sir? Get it together. Like, these men are so psychotic. So reaction to rejection is her other point here. That is definitely a sign. I don't remember the exact words I said to him after that, but I believe it was probably along the lines of trying to soften the mood and help him understand I wasn't ready for that. Upon walking up to the beach, my eyes lit up wider than the first amazing spot he had taken me to that day. Love bombing continues is her next asterisk. Again, one of the most beautiful places I had ever been in my life. The pictures did not do justice. We followed a private trail down and perched ourselves onto a blanket Rodrigo had brought out of the trunk of his car and sat on a hill with trees overhanging. See, that's a red flag in itself. Why does he have a blanket in his car? He's been listening to Tyler, the Creator. Girl, why does he have a blanket in his car? He's not new to this. He's true to this. The sun was setting and peeking through the trees and reflecting over the water of the sea. It was beautiful. Girl, I wish you would have got closer up there, girl, so I could see it without these damn trees in the way. Rodrigo leaves to take a quick dip, and I'm left alone, just in awe of the view. Like, in my brain, if he's put on his swim trunk, like, how do you know, like, when he went into the house to change his clothes, he didn't, like, text somebody, like, okay, I have this girl with me, and I'm going to this spot, and I'm going to go into the water for a dip, and when I do, come from behind and attack her and kill her. Like, that's where my brain would be. From the minute he left me to get into that damn water, I would be looking over my shoulder every 5 minutes. I wouldn't be able to sit still. Oh my gosh. After swimming, he returned back to the blanket beside me. As I mentioned before, Rodrigo was handsome and had a good body. My eyes traced him as he laid on his back, looking up to the canopy of trees above us. All I thought was, is this even real? Yeah, because I feel like I'm reading a Wattpad story. I'm not even gonna lie. But she got the pictures to prove it, girl. Let me Google search these pictures. We talked for a bit of time. The conversation we had at the beach was more personal. I vividly remember talking about life and sharing our past experiences. He opens up to me about past relationships, and I remember him telling me that a lot of people tend to leave out of his life. I wonder why. To me, when he told me this, I felt a bit of sadness for him. Although, yes, the sob story. That I was abandoned. Oh, I was abandoned. That's what they all lead with. Like, please. Ugh. To me, when he told me this, I felt a bit of sadness for him. Although it was very soon for him to open up to me at that level, I appreciated that from him because it showed vulnerability. And that's the only time you will get the vulnerability, when they're trying to hook, line, and sinker you. And emphasis on sink, that's when they're vulnerable. But after that, they will not be vulnerable. They will be as cold as freaking dry ice. She highlights here, fear of abandonment. Mary, stop sending me Telfar bags, okay? I tell him about the rough patch that my ex and I had been going through during my time abroad. He listened, asked questions, and never judged. Overall, we had a great evening at the beach. There was a moment, again, that Rodrigo tried to get physically close to me. I turned him down, but the rejection didn't seem to affect him as much as before. He was playful about it. He shed that skin, okay, because he realized, I'm gonna mess this up. He shed the skin and put on a new skin, so when you rejected him the second time, internally he's dealing with it a different way, but externally he's not gonna show that he's showing that side of him, because they gotta wait to drop that mask, baby. The mask will usually try to slip out on the first date, or like the first time being around somebody, and they cover it up quick, so you're like, okay, maybe they're just having an off day. They're just having an off day. And before you know it, you're in a very toxic situation. And also, I got this phone case from AliExpress, so don't be asking me, because I got it a long time ago. I don't know if it still exists, okay? The pictures with this story is just everything. We love a good receipt, girl. Fast forward, we head back to his home again for him to change and shower. After showering, Rodrigo proceeds to give me a tour of the palace, he called it. The house was his family's and a successful business to back up the receipt I would later find out about. After showing me the majority of his home, he offers to make dinner. Such a romantic gesture. I'm not eating nothing from this nigga. You are not bringing me... first of all, girl, you are just ignoring every red flag, because... No, don't be eating from crazy people. My thoughts were, the man can cook? I became his sous chef. I am a vegetarian, so we made a veggie spaghetti with bell peppers. The whole time I thought how unexpected this day had turned out. Again, I felt like I was dreaming. The only expectation I had about hanging out with Rodrigo was maybe going out to dinner with him. I couldn't help but to feel like I was being swept off my feet. In the back of my mind, reality did set in. Reality said, I leave for the US, I go home 6,000 miles away in less than 24 hours. Let me show y'all the food, girl. They was cooking. They was throwing down in the kitchen with the spaghetti. Hey, woo-wee. I held on to the present moment and lived in the now with him, and I was really enjoying myself at this point. We ate, joked around, and it was a great time. What if he had slipped something in the spaghetti sauce, girl? I need my sisters to do better, okay? This story, if we don't take anything else from this story, we need to take to be extra cautious, be diligent, use your discernment. Girl, I laugh all the time when I think back, because the spaghetti was not good. Okay, you see? How you mess up spaghetti, sir? She was eating bad spaghetti. Spaghetti? He messed up spaghetti? Oh my God. It was very shy of seasoning. I never said anything regarding the tasteless meal though, because he would have put you in the spaghetti next, ma'am. He would have said anything, okay? After cooking, we hung out in his bedroom. We talked more, listened to music, and just vibed. With that being said, things got a bit steamy. Rodrigo proceeds to take another attempt to kiss me, and I let him. I didn't regret it at that point. He was working he said, I'm leaving here with something. Hold on. Before I knew it, he was on top of me, kissing me with the same intensity of his first attempt in the car earlier that day. He asked me to go further, and I said no. A little back and forth between us had occurred. He tried to talk me into giving in, but again, I shut him down in a polite way. He seemed a little disappointed, but accepted it. No means no, okay? And honestly, it's in these situations that we say no, and the person is trying to coerce us into doing something we said no to already. Like, once a woman says no or a man says no, just leave it alone. Leave it alone. Don't try to convince them. And then if they're really sick in their head, you know what happens next. Thankfully, that's not what happened here. But like, we have to be way more careful. Way more careful. Soon after that, he motioned me to the side door of his room leading to the rooftop of the house. The sun had gone down. The weather was perfect, warm and breezy. We laid on our backs, looking up at the sky, and just talked, kissed, and had good conversations. Another romantic moment. I realized it was getting late. He mentioned he better get me back to my apartment. It was the perfect ending to the perfect night. He dropped me off at my apartment building and I say my goodbyes. In my brain, I'm like, this could have gone so bad because it could have went to the point where now it's nighttime and he's supposed to be driving her back. What if that was not the plan, you know? And what if his plan was something else, but for whatever reason, the angels just prevented it? Because remember, she's supposed to be getting back on her flight to Texas in 24 hours. And her parents or whoever is supposed to receive her, what if this ended up really badly? So this picture I'm not going to upload because it's a selfie with the two of them in it. So I'm not going to upload that. When I got back to my apartment, my abroad friends wanted the tea. I told them about my evening with Rodrigo. I showed them the pictures and snap videos I had taken. I told them everything. I made it known that everything was perfect, but a part of me felt something was off about him when he first tried to kiss me in the car and when he mentioned his abandonment issues and the fact that I didn't feel as though he was considerate of me not being able to swim with him. They listened, asked questions, and had their own opinions about him. Overall, I let them know at the time that I had with him was like the cherry on top of my whole study abroad experience. After just 4 weeks of being abroad, I cringe at the act of zipping up my suitcase. That was me when I came to Jamaica for 2 weeks. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to leave. I felt like my time there was so short-lived. I told myself I could have definitely stayed for a full semester or even a year and wished that had been the case. When I arrived back home to Texas, it felt like a slap back into reality. My life was back to normal for the most part. The only thing that changed was I was single. My ex and I did not talk for some weeks, but after falling back into routine, we decided to give our relationship another try. Did you tell him about Rodrigo? Oh, Lord have mercy. Rodrigo and I talked vaguely on Messenger every now and then. After my ex and I got back together, we cut communication completely. I'm sure he saw I was back with my ex through Facebook posts and respectfully didn't interfere. The relationship between my ex and I did not last after several months. A lot of promises not met and resentment deeply rooted under certain circumstances pushed us apart from one another. While all this was happening, I began to feel travel sick. Being abroad became the new love of my life. It was invigorating to be so independent and to be able to take in all new things every day. I deeply wanted to feel that again. I miss living in Greece and I miss the atmosphere, the environment, and more importantly, the feeling I had when I was there. I would daydream all the time about being in Athens and the neighboring islands. Some nights I would just lay in my bed and envision myself walking down the street from my apartment in Greece, hearing the sounds, smells, and feeling my sandals stepping on the sidewalk. Walking to the busy main streets, viewing the kiosks full of Greek snacks and beverages, seeing the grocery stores and public sitting areas where all the neighbors would meet in the evenings to congregate. I even visualized my time with Rodrigo. I would relive in my mind the places he took me and the feelings I felt. I envisioned this with all my senses because I wanted so badly to just be there and live in the moment again. As I was daydreaming consistently, I noticed a lot of aspects of my dreams were reflecting back to me in my reality. Sites of Greece popped up in my life. If I was watching TV, the characters would mention Greece. I would see the names and titles of Greek origin in random places, license plates with ATH on them, which is the airport code for Athens. Greek mythology references on social media would stick out to me like a sore thumb, and it was as if photos of Greece followed me everywhere. From then on, I began to question what the law of attraction was and began my spiritual journey. I am still on this journey to this day. I quickly learned that I was in alignment and the Greece references that I was experiencing were synchronicities. I learned that anything that I focused on or meditated on with great feeling, I could bring into my reality. In 2018, I graduated college. I started to deep dive into spirituality and myself. I made a lot of changes in my life. I discovered my love for Forex trading, stayed single, and was devoted to my happiness. I know that's right, okay? Same. One day, while scrolling through social media, I saw a post of Rodrigo with his new girlfriend. I was immediately happy for him. I mentally wished him well, but I know it may sound terrible, but I still reminisce about the evening I spent with him back in 2017. It was like it was engraved in my mind. On occasion, I would replay it, and it felt good. Fast forward to 3 years later, post-COVID, after the lockdown was lifted, my best friend and I planned a trip, and you guessed it, to Greece. We got to Athens and flew straight to Santorini for 4 days, and then to Milos. Is it Milos or Milos, girl? I don't know. Let me Google that.
Pronouncenames.com.
Milos.
We had the time of our lives. It was nothing short of an amazing trip. I'm glad you went with somebody this time. In the middle of the trip, Rodrigo was on my mind, so I decided to send him a friend request on Instagram. I didn't hear back from him for a couple of days. He didn't post much on other social media accounts, so I figured he was disconnected from the social world until I got a message from him saying, "How's it been going?" And so it begins. We catch up. Small talk grows into flirty messages. I tell him I'm in Greece and in the islands. He tells me that he's in Spain visiting family and doing business, and it hints that he might need to cut his trip short and leave for Athens to visit me before I go back to the US. Baby, he was probably never in no damn Spain. He was probably in Athens the whole damn time trying to sound busy. That's what it's giving. Doing business. Sir, what business? I felt flattered, but then I quickly asked, wait a minute. Do you have a girlfriend? He answered immediately, yes, we're going through a difficult moment, and yeah, it's unsure if it will continue. He also mentioned he would never cheat on her, but in my mind I thought, if I wouldn't have asked him if he had a girlfriend, would he have really come to see me? And then what would have happened? Here are the receipts. Flirting and wanting to meet up with me while having a girlfriend. Another red flag. To the end of the conversation, I told him that it may not be the best if we meet with each other. I let him know, if anything, he would need to fix things with her or break things off before we saw each other again. Girl, you cannot give a narcissist an ultimatum because they're just going to lie their way through it, okay? I didn't want to step on any toes. He was receptive and agreed. I genuinely wished him well, too, but there was still that underlying desire to build a connection with him again. Out of respect for his relationship, I didn't let him know that. I just simply let go. I think that you didn't respect the relationship because you told him, you gave him an ultimatum. Like, he needs to choose you or her, really. Like, you need to either fix it with her or break up with her before we can continue anything. So I'm going to be the first to tell you, girl, you was dead wrong, okay? Anyway, fast forward, February 2022, I got a notification on Messenger from Rodrigo saying, and we broke up. It was a surprise because I hadn't heard from him in 4 months. What happened? I asked. We tried to fix things, but it couldn't be fixed, he said. I asked him exactly when the breakup happened and if he was okay. He told me, I told her to leave today and that he was fine. What? Discarded ex and quickly moves on to another person. Yeah. Hell of a red flag. 4 months of not talking, pops up and reconnects as if time did not pass. Shelving? No shown feelings of sadness for his relationship ending. Exactly. I felt bad that they were not able to reconcile the relationship and that he may be hurting even though he said he was fine. But then again, on the other hand, I felt happy that he was coming to me the day of their separation. You felt what? When he was doing what? Girl, what? I never want to be a rebound in my life. I never want to be a rebound. If you just broke up with your girlfriend on today and you message me and tell me and my girl just broke out, what it is or what's up, nigga, nothing. Nothing is up. Go find Jesus before you come and talk to me. I want to do some why. Oh my goodness. I felt like he kept himself away to work out his relationship, which was very admirable to me. I felt like I had been on his mind those past few months, and now that things had ended with his ex, the moment he could reach out to me, he did. That made me feel so special. I also felt like my desire, my manifestation for him, was finally being received in the right way. Speed is the weapon of the narcissist. Mental illness. She got some good little gems up in here, okay? Mental illness is Lee Hammock. It did worry me a bit that he was already talking to me, not even days after his breakup. We even talked the day his ex had come to his home to get her stuff. He said he cut all communication from her. She had to contact his family members to get to him. I asked him if he was okay and how he felt. He reassured me that the break was long drawn out before it even happened, and to me that was an understandable explanation. From there, we talked and messaged almost every day for hours at a time, no matter the time difference. FaceTime became a norm, and I got to know more than I ever knew about Rodrigo. He was still the same charming guy that I had met 5 years ago in college. Reconnecting on a deeper level was what I wanted, and it was happening. And see, that's the thing with the narcissist too. They always gonna spin the block on you, okay? Unless you actually make it impossible for them to contact you. They're always going to spin the block. They always go back to an ex, or they go back to somebody they had some kind of connection with that may not have gotten far. You know, they always spin the block on you because they already know your body, right? They already know what you're about, what they can and can't get away with just yet. It's familiar to them and is comfortable for them, so that's what they're going to do. If they can't get to you, however, they're going to have to seek out a new supply. But what they do is try to find a supply that they already had or were working on in the past. And because you've already shown that, hey, I reach out to this guy, he's on my mind, he knows that you're going to be easy to reel back in. He don't have to find somebody brand spanking new. Only a couple of weeks had passed, and I could feel his admiration for me grow. I would catch him call me babe in the most enthusiastic way when he answered the phone. It was cute. Anytime he posted on social media, he was always there immediately to comment and make conversation. He was about me. He was hyper fixated on me, and I loved it. Yeah. Bet you did. We talked about visiting each other, and it was more of a notation for me to visit him in Athens. A lot of times he drew out a vision of going on trips together and visiting the best resorts, even meeting his father, which he had a strong relationship with. More information to come. It became apparent to me that he and his father ran a successful food trading business station in Malta, which would explain the palace he had brought me to when we first met. Future faking, traveling to him, isolation, moving too fast in relationship development. So those are the 3 red flags that she's highlighting right now. Although most of our conversations were lovely and enjoyable, I could pick out a few aspects that were questionable. For one, he asked me right off the bat what I earned at my job. Scam them! Him and his dad are scamming down the place. Let me find out. I thought to myself, maybe that was a cultural thing. Were Europeans open about their salary earnings when getting to know someone? Or is it a US thing where we automatically feel as though it's none of anyone's damn business? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't. So I can't answer it. But like, if anybody comes to me and asks me what my income is, I'm going to ask them, why do you need to know that? A lot. Why are you asking me that? What are you asking me that for? Are you a scammer? Like, literally, are you a scammer? Do I have something that you need or want? Are you going into business with me? If we're not going into business together, or if we're not talking about starting a business together or anything of that nature, there's no reason for anybody to really ask me that. That is dating me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be forthcoming with that information, because money is the root of what? All evil. In the wrong hands, okay? Okay, people be doing something strange for some change. And quite frankly, if a man approaches me and asks me that, I'm not really going to... It's one thing to ask, what do you do for a living? You know? But like, if I say to a man, hey, what do you do for a living? Because I see that, I don't know, he's dressed nicely, or he drives a nice car, or his house is beautiful. Like, what do you do for a living? I'm genuinely curious, but I'm not going to be like, well, how much money does that bring in? Like, you know what I mean? If somebody tells me they're a freaking surgeon, I'm going to just assume, oh, you got money. But if somebody tells me they work for the government, I'm like, okay, well, that's steady. Okay, you got benefits. And if somebody asks me what I do for a living, I actually don't really like to say what I do for a living, because it always has follow-up questions. So I actually always just say I work in advertising. I never really say I'm a YouTuber, or like, you know, or I say I'm a nail tech. I never ever say I'm a YouTuber, because I don't like the questions that come with it. The next line after people ask me that question, like, what do you do for a living? And I say, if I say the truth and I don't say I work in advertising, I usually say one or two things. I say I work for Google or I work for advertising. And even when I say I work for Google, they're like, oh, that must be a pretty chunk of change. And I'm like, yeah, it's good. But like when people ask me those questions, the next question is always geared to income. Like, so that pays you? Does that, you live good off of that? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, for the most part. And I just try to like give a very short answer so that they don't keep trying to pry, because like you in my business, don't do that. Don't do that. While talking about our hobbies, he mentioned he liked to ski. I thought that was very cool. To my surprise, Rodrigo asked me how tall I was and what shoe size I wore. Upon snooping in the past, I saw pictures on Facebook of him and his ex skiing together, so it sounded to me like he wanted to know if I would be able to fit her ski gear. Replacing. Yeah. See, you mess with me, baby. You are leaving with nothing. So you can't take my old items and re-gift them to your new gal. We are not the same, baby. You leave with nothing. So you can't take my old stuff and try to put them on somebody else. But that is something people do, and I think it's absolutely insane. Like, imagine. That's like the men that take their old engagement rings and propose to somebody new. Baby, the ring is cursed, okay? You're sick. Sick Negro 2.0. Remember me mentioning back in 2018 I fell in love with Forex trading? Well, I realized Rodrigo and his father's company did along the lines of the same thing for their business. During his home tour on FaceTime, he showed me his trading room. The room was full of monitors back to back, an impressive setup. Charting is a big aspect of trading, and I was in awe of the setup he had. It made me happy to know that he was involved in the same type of money making I was into. I'm wondering if you put anything about Forex trading on your social media, and if you did, if he then went out and made it look like he was into Forex trading so that he could later bring it up to you and scam you. We're gonna see how this goes. Because a lot of the time what a narcissist will do is morph, right? They're like freaking chameleons, and they will try to be what you are. And it doesn't work out for them because they're not authentically themselves, right? They don't know how to be. So we'll see, girl. We talked about our families and relationships. I opened up to him about my childhood, which was a good one for the most part, although my parents' relationship was unconventional and a bit rocky. We talked about his childhood too. Another commonality, we both grew up as the only child. His parents separated when he was young. He was raised by his mother in the early years in Spain, and then later met and lived with his dad for the majority of his life in Greece. So he says, girl. Now, when you mentioned his dad earlier, I noticed you didn't mention his mom, and so I was wondering about his relationship with his mother and if any of his abandonment comes from that, and what his relationship with his mother is like, because if it is not a good one, that's what you're gonna get. Any girl that's involved with him, whatever feelings he has towards his mother, he's gonna pound into the girl, okay? Not necessarily physically, but emotionally and mentally. He mentioned that both his parents were tough, strong-minded individuals. He told me that his father was diagnosed with a mental disorder. Well, listen, from mental issues are in the genetics, girl, trouble. In which he acted in rageful ways. He told me stories about incidents he and his father had. He admitted there was a time in his life where he disliked his father. After years of abuse, he grew to understand his father's disorder and learned to live with it. Another narc? I don't know. The rage is definitely narc tendencies, so we'll see. He mentions that the relationship he and his father has is love and hate. He joked that his father has an unhealthy obsession with him. Yeah. He was vulnerable with me just as the day we were at the beach, and I appreciated that. Childhood trauma and abusive parent. Those are the next two red flags she's pointing out for us. Then he opened up about his past relationship. Apparently they were together for 2 years, the longest relationship he ever had. Like me, she was from another country, and they met at the same university we met at. He ultimately, now what he's still doing in the damn university? How old is he? The longest relationship we ever had. He ultimately told me she was not appreciative of the life he provided for her, the home that he built, and the things he did for her, the lifestyle, he would say. He told me she would not work hard enough to find a job and that she would take her family's opinions in consideration before his. In one instance, he said that they had an argument and she called him misogynistic. Very. You're not going to meet a freaking narc that's not drenched in misogyny. You're not. He mentioned that she told him that if she were to ever have a baby with him, she wanted to make sure she was financially supported by him through documentation. He said their relationship was toxic. During these conversations, I could tell he was getting a bit worked up. The volume of his voice grew, almost as though he was reliving the argument, because he never got over her. He never took the time to figure out the issues. He broke up with her, kicked her out of the house, and then messaged you. He never had time to reflect on the issues that were at hand and any roles that he may have played and any roles she may have played. 9 times out of 10, these mother effers are the victim in their mind. Okay, so she was probably trying to, secure herself. Why she said that thing about the baby, because he was probably already being problematic with her. But then, ma'am, don't have a baby by him. Okay, but she probably grew comfortable in the lifestyle and decided, if I'm going to be abused by this man, I'm going to make sure I got my ducks in a row. Not smart in the long run, but understandable. I could tell it bothered him, which I'm sure it would bother anybody. But in the back of my mind, I wondered to myself, what was her part of the story? So the red flag she's pointing out here, ex from another country, just like me, blamed his ex for a lot of things, but never mentioned anything he could have done wrong in the relationship. During one conversation, he admitted he doesn't apologize for anything. He said that he doesn't see a reason to apologize. Yeah, my ex said the same thing. That exact sentence. They don't apologize because they're not sorry. And you have to understand that. A day or two after he and his ex broke up, he mentioned that she came back to his home to get her stuff. He said they argued, and he stated that she began to push and hit him. He said that if he ever retaliated or acted on the same level as she did, he would be the bad guy. He mentioned he never hit or laid his hands on her. Interesting thing to drop into the conversation. Looking back, for all I know, he could have been lying. I feel as though anyone wouldn't mention something like that if it was close to happening or already had happened. Exactly. We talked about what characteristics we would want in our ideal partner. I named off exactly what I wanted in a husband. Never do that. Never tell somebody exactly what you're looking for, because they're going to just morph into that if they are sick. Have your little list and tick off the boxes. If the person is exhibiting that, you don't need to tell them, because it's just something that's going to come natural. If I go and say, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, I want this, I want that, the person's going to be like, especially a narcissist. That's why they say on dating profiles to not put what you're looking for, because that is narc breeding ground, okay? They will find you and they will be just the charmingest person, the most perfect man ever, and before you know it, you're in an abusive situation because they seeked you out. You cannot tell people what you're looking for, and you also shouldn't tell them what their red flags are. If you see the red flag, just call it what it is and boogie, okay? For example, healthy, loyal, and confident, and at no surprise, Rodrigo assures me he has all of those things and more. I then ask him what he wants in a woman. He stammers for a moment and begins to say, I want a woman that is respectful, and I take a moment to think to myself, respectful? That's the thing that comes to your mind? Sounds like an action or benefit more so for you than a characteristic of the person. And yeah, what the freak does that mean? Respectful. If we're in a relationship and we love each other, respect is going to come naturally. First of all, just as human beings, you just show respect to show respect. If you're a good person, you know what I mean? You don't need to be told to be respectful. Nobody's just out of the blue disrespectful. But he's telling on himself. So him saying that he wants a woman that is respectful, what does that even mean? See, if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, can you elaborate? What do you mean respectful? Can you give me some more details on that? Because I'm finding it, I'm confused. I don't really understand what you mean by respectful. And chances are, if you do say something like that to somebody that is narcissistic, and they are not really going to know how to answer that question because they don't even know what the hell they mean. You don't even know what you're saying. And the gag here is a narcissist doesn't even show you human respect, because that's what I used to beg for. I said, I'm not even asking you to respect me as your wife or your partner. I just want human respect. And I couldn't get it. And so for this person to say they want a woman that is respectful, what the hell does he mean? And if you ask them to elaborate, they're going to get offended that you're questioning them. Let's continue. Next red flag, desires for a partner to serve him. We talked about the attributes of ourselves and how we view one another. I told him that I liked that he is confident and opinionated. When I asked him what he thought about me, he listed off nice attributes, and in the end, he said, "You're perfect." When he said this to me, it made me feel great. I laughed and thanked him for the compliment and told him no one is perfect. After knowing what I know now, saying "you're perfect," did he mean perfect to manipulate, perfect to devalue, perfect to abuse? And that's exactly what the freak he meant, because that's where my head went. That's where my head freaking went. We talked about our travels and places we desired to go in the future. After a couple months, I was ready to jump on a plane to Athens to see him again. He made hints about me flying over to see him and the places he would plan for us to go. He would say we can go to the islands, lay on the beach, and eat fruit all day. I love the thought of that. Of him whisking me off to an island, him taking care of everything, and just enjoying our time together. Looking back, I daydreamed about how great the story of us would be. How amazing it would be to ultimately have this deep connection and love for someone overseas and finally reunite with them and just begin to build a life together. So this is the future faking and love bombing point she's about to make to us. And quite frankly, if this man is so caked up, if he's living in the palace, if he's doing all these things and he wants you to come visit him, is he buying the plane ticket? Because if he's not buying the plane ticket, I already know he's full of it. He don't do no Forex trading. He don't have no business with his daddy. It was an Airbnb. Like all these things. So we're going to see what happens, because if you're going to tell me, if we're in a relationship and you're like, "Oh, baby, I want you to come see me, all these things," why haven't you surprised me with the plane ticket yet? Inquiring minds would like to know. And you're going to want me to dash out when I'm in Athens, Greece, but you didn't buy the plane ticket at minimum, but you rich and you kick the girl out and all these things. Oh, you got money, baby. You better supply the ticket. When he said these things, I genuinely believe till this day that he meant what he said. He wanted those happy, intimate moments, but now I have to ask myself, is he capable of it? Is he capable of living out a good time together? While we talked about vacationing, he mentions fishing. I do eat fish occasionally, and Rodrigo's ideas for us were to rent a boat to fish. He boasted about knowing how to clean fish very well. He couldn't even cook spaghetti, ma'am. He couldn't even freaking cook spaghetti, but he can clean fish. The lies and the jokes write themselves. Like, this is crazy. Seasonless spaghetti, and you're going to trust him to clean the damn fish for you? Girl, get it together. He told me a story about a time he went to a restaurant and the chef did not clean out the fish well. He swore in anger about how he bashed the chef and how awful the fish was because it wasn't cleaned correctly. Grandiosity. What the hell is he even going on about? This actually reminds me of, what did I call Tasmanian's husband? He had jobs upon jobs upon jobs upon jobs, baby. Like I told you, he was trading the Trump's out to the freaking ice skates. He was driving around in a Lamborghini in a suit and tie like James Bond. All these all these jobs he had. He was head of security and all these things. This guy was cussing out a chef at a restaurant for not cleaning the fish properly. Sir, be for real. I didn't say anything after he told me this story. In my mind, I thought, ugh, he's one of those customers. The rude and entitled customer. One conversation through FaceTime, I remember he said verbatim, I can be at times. That's what he said on FaceTime. I can be showing me how his personality can be. peeking through the mask, showing me a snippet of who he really is. My previous ex would say this when we started dating also. This was kind of triggering for me. So those are the two other red flags. While having a steamy FaceTime session, I gave him a compliment, and later on in the day, he recollected the compliment and stated that it made him feel great, pumped his ego, and then said, I do have some narcissistic tendencies. Oh boy. Oh wow. So he fully knows who the hell he is. He fully knows. Wow. I didn't know what to say after he mentioned this. I heard the term narcissist before. I thought it was just an adjective meant to describe a person acting unreasonable to others at times. I made a mental note to Google the term, and when I did, my whole world exploded. I Googled, what is a narcissist? Results came up, and I went down the rabbit hole. The most shocking thing I found to me at the time was a pre-constructed question to my Google searches. Can a narcissist love? The answer summed up on the website link stated no. I couldn't wrap my mind around the thought of an individual not being able to love. For the next several weeks, while still talking to Rodrigo, I did more research, and then I found Dr. Ramani. I binge watched her videos for days, checking off boxes and connecting instances that were directly relatable to my relationship with Rodrigo, and I thought to myself, it all makes sense now. When that thing hits you, oh my God. And see, mine didn't hit me. I didn't find Dr. Ramani until probably, I'm going to say, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. But my thing hit me while I was still married and starting therapy. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, I was going down my own rabbit hole, so to speak. And I guess it was the same for you, because Dr. Ramani could be your source of therapy, or just trying to even learn or understand the narcissist. And so I know exactly what you were feeling when it finally hit you, and like everything just made sense. It's like a light bulb goes off and you're like, WTF. But you're conflicted, and you're feeling all different kinds of emotions, because you're like, okay, now I finally get what this is, what it was, and how to go forward. Whereas when you're in it, you're constantly questioning, you're like confused, oh my God. So I know exactly the feeling that came over you when you discovered Dr. Ramani, because that was me in therapy. I also started watching videos from a self-aware narcissist, like Mental Healness, Raw Motivations. I watch both of those people. Cluster B Milkshake, I don't know who that is, and Professor Sam Vaknin, don't know who that is either. I also watch videos from The Little Shaman and a lot of stories of victims of narcissistic abuse, and then you bravely came out about the relationship you had with your ex. It blew my mind to know that personality disorders are affecting so many people's lives, and only now in this time of history is it really coming to light, and we are really beginning to learn and understand it. Warnings through spirit. I told a close friend bits and pieces of my experience while reconnecting with Rodrigo, and a month later she had a dream and shared it in a group text with me and another one of my friends. Here are the screenshots. So the dream is kind of long, so I'm just going to skip over the dream part and just get back into the email. Mind you, along my spiritual journey, I begin to listen to subliminal recordings while I sleep and reprogram my subconscious mind. And when I do, I don't usually have dreams. I know that dreams can be decoded as messages, so I felt as though her dream was a message to me being received through her. I didn't know the connection I made to her dream because it really startled her, so I just kept the realization to myself. Also, it blew my mind the fact that when Rodrigo and I first met, he took me to the private beach and swam by himself, and I sat and waited for him. The next several months, I lessened my communication with Rodrigo. When I started to do this, he would ask me if there was something wrong or why I hadn't been reaching out to him lately. I just told him everything was fine and that I had a lot going on, which was not a lie. I did. I had a lot going on in my mind about him. In the past, I mentioned to him I love when men grow out their beards. One day, after not talking for a few weeks, he FaceTimed me. Do you know this man started growing out his beard? Oh my gosh, I was shocked. Also, I remember mentioning to him that my dream car is a Porsche Macan. A Porsche, guys. He told me he was getting ready to lease the newest model soon. Well, this has happened to me before. Hoovering. At the end of the FaceTime, he asked me to send him pics, which was a thing we did when we were talking at the peak of our relationship. Since we hadn't talked in weeks, I figured he would read the room, and realize we were no longer on that level anymore. I told him I thought we were past that and we weren't doing that anymore, and he was surprised. Like no time had passed. I continued to do more research, and while flooding myself with more information about NPD, I began to ask for signs spiritually. Ask and you shall receive. A lady named Iris. At the start of my pharmacy career path in 2012, I had the most terrible coworker. Her name was Iris, and in realization now, I know for sure this woman was a narcissist. She was grandiose, very vindictive, ornery, and unapologetic. She walked as if she owned the establishment. Long story short, she was fired from her position, but later came back to reconcile with my boss. My boss wanted me to speak with her and make amends for all the animosity that took place when she was in our work environment. My boss insisted on me being friends with her and hugging. When my boss said this to me, I wanted her to laugh in her face. I looked at her like that is not happening, and in my mind, the quote stuck. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. My favorite thing to say on Botox. One day, while still contemplating my relationship with Rodrigo, I went to the grocery store and decided to get some fresh flowers for my apartment. I knew I wanted flowers that had not bloomed yet so that they would open up in my home and I could fully enjoy them. I chose purple bouquet that had all closed blossoms, and I thought to myself, let me Google the name of the flowers so I can see what they actually look like when they're in full bloom. The tag name on the bouquet was Iris. That's hilarious. That asking you receive go crazy, let me tell you. Oh my gosh. After grocery shopping that very same day, I was scrolling on social media. I had recently followed a new influencer page. I clicked on her story, and the first thing she showed was a handwritten quote of the day that read, when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. And from that point on, I knew it was confirmation. The reddest of flags. After researching NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder, if you guys don't know, that's what that is, I wanted to retouch the subject with Rodrigo on his tendencies. The fact that he mentioned them in the first place was a catalyst, and it stayed on my mind. I wanted to know to what extent those tendencies were. I wanted to know on what spectrum he considered himself to be on. With great thought and preparation, I decided to ask him, I don't know why you did that, girl, but I mean, do you? I believed if he was vulnerable enough to tell me that he had them, he would be willing to elaborate on them more. When I asked Rodrigo about his tendencies, he denied having said he had them at all, and went on a tangent about if he was a narcissist, he would need to have 5 out of 9 signs to be even considered one. No, baby, it's 9 out of 12 signs. The fact that he knew this told me at one point he questioned if he himself had the disorder. Yeah, exactly that. And so I'm surprised I'm actually gagged at the fact that he even said he had the tendencies. Okay. Then again, there are people with the tendencies that are not necessarily full-blown narcissists, but the tendencies are enough for me to run for the damn hills. Whew. And yeah, that was a huge gaslight. I never said that. Oh! The conversation really solidified everything. At this point, I knew nothing better could come from this relationship. Praise the Lord, girl. Okay? Most people that are with narcissists or have been with narcissists get way too deep into it to even ever figure it out. Like, you are so blessed, girl. You are definitely one of God's favorites. Y'all be over here telling me I'm one of God's favorites. Oh, baby, I had to walk through hell, okay? Mama found out before it got too deep, and I love that for her. Girl, you are one of God's favorites for sure. Everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer in this. I can't help to think about all the what ifs. My first time meeting Rodrigo was very short-lived. Only a few hours we spent together, and the next day I flew home. Looking back, it was for a reason. Hell yes, okay? If I would have met him in the beginning of my studies abroad, who knows how much time I would have spent with him and how fast I would have fallen for him. Back in 2017, there was not as much information online about the subject for me to even grasp the concept of NPD and to truly understand what I could have been walking into. My friend sent me her dream for a reason. I picked up that bouquet of iris flowers for a reason. Distance, being 6,000 miles away from him, was for a reason. I don't know how. Let me Google something right quick. And that number 6 the devil. Okay, 6,000 miles. I am currently 1,888 miles from Ottawa. Okay, that 888 right there, God's grace. He told me he had narcissistic tendencies. I could have brushed it off, but the term was stuck on my mind enough for me to Google it. That was for a reason. As of recently, I started to go no contact with Rodrigo. Oh, hallelujah. I blocked him on all social media accounts, and it wasn't easy. I blocked and deleted men in the past, but what made it hard for me this time was the fact that I wasn't directly abused by Rodrigo. For me, it's been hard to let go because I haven't been hurt, which is so twisted to say. Throughout our time of talking, I honestly felt like I was under a spell. MK Ultra. I believe it was because of this fantasy that I had built in my head that he helped build. Yep, all that dopamine hits of attention and showered affection all added up. Then knowing about his tendencies and possible disorder almost made me want to help and heal him. But now I understand this is something I can never do. Never. There is no cure for MPD. Okay, even if they're aware of their tendencies and even if they're aware of their diagnosis, there's some people that, help others, but they still at their core are living with this thing, and that's all they can do is live with it. And those around them still may suffer. And if that's what they choose to do, that's what they choose to do. But I think I don't watch all of Mental Illness's content, and so I haven't really dived into how him and his wife make their relationship work. But the fact that he's self-aware and he's in therapy, though he may still be a narcissist, he has learned to live with it so that it's not constantly hurting the people that he loves if he can help it. See, I'm fully aware that there is no cure for this thing, and I'm fully aware that some people can't help themselves. And so that's for me to forgive and move on with my life about, and that's what I've done, And so my situation is obviously quite complicated, and going no contact, with a narcissist is already tough. But when your situation is as complicated as mine, it's even more tough, right? And so I totally understand your position, but you're so blessed and fortunate that you have no ties to Rodrigo. You don't have children with Rodrigo. You didn't even have sex with Rodrigo, I don't think. So, it's a lot easier for you to maneuver your situation, and I'm so happy for you that you were able to see it, identify it. It was slapping you over the head and you could not ignore it. And that's what I love about when you go on a spiritual journey. That's what happens. Had I not started that spiritual journey in 2019, I would probably still be very stuck in my situation. But that spiritual journey woke me up and started pretty much turning the gears to let me know your situation is not normal. And though I still was stuck in it and not fully aware of what it was starting to slap me in the head about the red flags that I could no longer ignore. And then when I would address them, it would get worse. But that spiritual journey paired with therapy is really what saved me. And so, some people can see it and get out of it without therapy. Clearly you did it, but you're still feeling the aftermath of dealing with somebody that is narcissistic, or things are making sense to you with somebody that was narcissistic or is narcissistic, and you still have to deal with that even though your relationship didn't even get that far, because you still start to analyze. Because you had real feelings for him, you're still analyzing oh my God, was this real or not? When he called me perfect, what did he actually mean by that? Perfect to manipulate, or was he genuinely complimenting me? No. All in all, I know that God has had me and has been in control of the situation since it started in 2017, regardless of what I wanted. I contemplated so much on sending this email to you because I gaslighted myself into thinking that no one will really care about what I've experienced because I wasn't directly abused. Bull. And that's the thing too. But in reality, people should know because it's so important to recognize the red flags of situations like this. Looking back, I didn't truly know his background, his friends, and his family other than what he had told me exactly. And that's the thing too. Like with my situation, he had already kind of planted the seed about his parent, right? So I already had like, I guess, a preconceived notion about her. And then once I met her and saw that side of her, it was like, okay, well, he wasn't lying about that. You know what I mean? Like, I understand why he feels the way he feels about her, but I'm never expecting that to then turn into me. You know what I mean? And so, sorry, I'm laughing. It's not even funny. Like, I don't know why I be laughing. I'm uncomfortable. Like, what's going on? No. I think that becoming aware was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me, but also one of the most devastating things that ever happened to me, because sometimes accepting your reality is just so painful. But at the same time, it's like, thank God, thank God that I was able to accept that this is what it is, this is who they are. It's time to pack it up. Okay, hang it up flat screen. It's time to go. With that situation, they plant those seeds and tell you what they want to tell you so that they give you the first impression of anybody that you're going to meet in their family, so you will stay kind of isolated and just to them, so that you will feel how they feel about those people. And so for a long time, I did try to encourage a relationship between them two, and they have it now. So, they have it now, but is it real or is it supply for each other, and whatever it is, it doesn't matter, it's good for them. But for a long time, I tried to encourage a relationship and encourage healing and forgiveness because that's who I am at my core. Like, and that's the thing too. When people do me dirty, when people wrong me, there's just something about me that I can't hold on to it. And so, yeah, I might talk about it and I might, heal from it. But like, I don't have ill feelings towards people. Like, I don't have ill feelings towards Taz. I don't have ill feelings towards my ex. To me, they're just things of the past, and it's like water under the bridge. And so that's why too, like, if you watch my old story times where I talk about Cupcake, where I talk about anything that's happened to me, you see, I still forgive people, and in the future, I allow them back in. And so they may still do things that I don't like. And then that's for me at that point to say, okay, well, I got to put up a different boundary now because you've already shown me who you are. It's just my turn. It's my time to actually believe you now. Because to me, if you're a certain age and you were doing things, like if this is 10 years ago and you're behaving a certain way and 10 years later, you're still behaving that way, I don't think I can be friends with you, family with you, whatever it is. Because I know that 10 years ago, what I was doing, I ain't doing it today. So if I know I've evolved and changed, if you are either older than me or age doesn't even matter, but if you have been going through life for 10 years and you are not evolving and changing and becoming better, I don't really have the capacity to, be a friend with you or be close to you or be family with you, because you're showing me that you don't grow. You're showing me that you don't change. And if you've gone, if 10 years has passed and you are the same person, something is wrong. And I don't mean same person like in a positive way. I mean, obviously for me, I'm the same person through and through, but I'm mature. I've grown, and you can see that I've grown. So for me, the evidence is there. It's on camera because I've been on damn YouTube for so long. But for others, they don't have the proof that they've grown. They don't have the proof that and they haven't. You know, some people literally do not change for the better, because yes, I'm still me at my core. I still tell it like it is. I'm still, you know, happy-go-lucky, funny, whatever words you guys want to label me with. You know, I'm still that girl. Like, I'm still that girl. But I'm an evolved version of her. I'm a changed version of her. And the things that I would have accepted 10 years ago, I would never accept them now. Same thing goes for, and if I did, it would be like, okay, well then you haven't learned, you haven't grown, and you can't go any further in life because, what is she cooking out there, girl? You can't go any further in life because you're not willing to change and evolve and grow. So you just be stagnant and you just be stuck there forever and a day. And that's on you. And so, you know, for me, that's why I'm constantly in prayer. That's why I'm constantly talking to God, because I want to be able to evolve. I want to be able to change. I want to be able to grow. I want to be the best version of myself always. And when I'm with somebody, okay, so when I'm dating somebody, I'm obviously I'll encourage them to do the same, right? And so that's just my body. That's just who I am. And I'm not gonna do it for you. You know what I mean? I can't do it for you, but I'm gonna encourage you. Okay, you go get this encouragement, whether you like it or not. And if you don't like it, then you're not for me. Because I should be able to encourage somebody the same way they should be able to encourage me. And that's friend, sister, brother, cousin, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever it is. You should be able to speak life into somebody. You know what I mean? Like, that's just should come natural, right? And you'll know who is for you and who is not based on if they are speaking life into you the same way you are speaking life into them. If I'm treating you one way and you're treating me like crap, you can never be for me. So that's that on that, girl, because I'll be over here rambling all day. The bottom line is, growth is necessary for personal development and success in every aspect of life. If you're doing the same things you were doing when you were a teenager, but you 36, like, if you're doing the same things you were doing as a teenager at 36, obviously you're not going to get nowhere in life. You're going to be stuck on welfare. You're going to be confused, crying every other week. Like, what's wrong with me? I'll tell you, the biggest thing that people do to become stuck or stay stuck is listen to the wrong people, have the wrong people around them, trust the wrong people, not spend enough time with themselves because they're too scared to. See, I'm not afraid to be alone and by myself and just me and God and talk to God. I'm not afraid of that. And so that's really how I was able to change and grow and evolve, by spending time with myself and learn myself and be okay and secure with myself. If you can't do that, you will stay stuck. If you are needy, so to speak, and you need the people that you think are your friends, but they're also stuck, or they are not motivating you to do better or be better because they live a certain lifestyle, or they live, you know, however they live, you're never going to get ahead, because you're always going to be stuck with them and stay back with them. You know, how can you elevate if there's people with crabs in a barrel mentality trying to hold you down? You can't. So you have to be able to cut off any kinds of cancers that are in your life and separate yourself and know that you have been set apart. Okay, ma'am, sir, know that you're set apart so that you can soar. You cannot hold on to people that are dead weight, and that goes for family members. That could be your own mother, okay? Your mama, your daddy, your sisters, your brothers, your uncles, whoever, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. There's a lot of people that will keep you where you're not supposed to be, and you have to be able to hear God and be like, I'm gonna go over here where I can evolve and change and grow. And if these people are supposed to be in my life, they'll be evolving and changing and growing as well. But if they're not, and they're not even open to it, because baby, I've been knowing people that are not even open to changing and evolving. Like, there's people that I know that I can't talk to, that I love. I love them, but I know I can't even fix my mouth to say what they really need to hear, because they can't receive it because they're not there yet. And when they're there, I'm gonna be there to edify to help them do whatever they need to do. But until they're there, my words are falling on deaf ears. I'm throwing my pearls to swine. And I don't have time for that, because if I'm dropping a gem, baby, you better catch it, okay? If I'm dropping a gem, you better catch it and know what to do with it. This ain't Mario Kart. Girl, please. Anyway, look at me rambling. The Lord just be speaking through me, girl. All I saw was the mask, and if I didn't pay attention to the red flags and signs, nothing would have stopped me from getting on that plane and meeting him again. Again, thank you so much for sharing your experience with your past relationship. You've helped me and so many other subscribers understand MPD. You are so insightful, beautiful, and strong. And I'm gonna cry. P.S. After I finished writing this, I watched your storytime love bomb and ended up homeless. And girl, your video just summed up what I realized. We really don't realize that if someone has not put their hands on you or talked to you crazy, that doesn't mean you aren't being directly abused. This is a hard pill to swallow. P.S. Sorry for any typos. Love you so much. Thank you again. I love you too. And it's actually, that story time, it's actually so crazy because there's so much of my story that you guys have no idea about. There's so much, you know, and as the days go by and and things get more and more intense, and I wait on God to deliver me in what I'm in right now, he's delivering me from it, but while I'm in it, just to show, you know, how bossed up my God is, you know. As I wait on that, and I get to actually reveal and share the parts of my story that have been untold, I'm just so ready for that, right? I'm so prepared for that, and girl. And my hope and my prayer is that if it doesn't do anything else, it frees people and it wakes people up from the destruction that being with the wrong person can bring to your life. Because at the end of the day, I got Jesus, so I already know I'm free indeed, okay? I am free indeed through Christ. So walking in that and knowing that, I want to share my story so that people can understand just how much God has affected and prepared me and purposed me for this. Because yeah, I could have never have predicted this. I could have never have expected this life that I am currently living. I'm just happy to be alive to even talk about it, because there's been so many times where this situation has tried to take me out, you know. There's been so many times where my life has been in danger, and still in danger. God is so good to me. And so I know I was saying to our friend here that wrote this story in that she's definitely one of God's favorites, because if I had known what kind of spiral cyclone mess my life would turn into by not doing what I knew I was supposed to do at the time I was supposed to do it, all the way back in 2012, okay? I would be telling a different testimony here, but God uses everything to work together for our good if we love him. And I love God. I love God so much, and I'm happy to be able to share these little parts of my life and help you guys in your own situations. And I appreciate you for telling us and sending us down that rabbit hole, because I actually thoroughly enjoyed this story. Girl, first of all, you need to be a writer, number one. Even though this really happened to you, I feel like a lot of people can learn from this story, and that's why I wanted to do it by itself as a Botox, and just, you know, sharing what it could look like if you're in a situation that's about to turn ugly, you know. But you were super spared, and I think you're really strong, and I think that you are wise, and that you were able to follow your gut and your spirit. And so whenever I think of my situation, if I had gone on my journey, my spiritual journey, because remember, baby, you want to know I'm covered? I was baptized when I was 9. Okay, that's why the Lord had me covered, because he had a plan and purpose for my life long before that. But I got baptized at 9. And obviously from 9 until high school, you know, once I started high school, I definitely started straying, right? And I was never really, I didn't know what spirituality was. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know anything about that. You know, I knew about my Bible, and I would read it occasionally, but like I wasn't enthusiastic about it. I wasn't, you know, in deep with the Lord. And then, you know, I go through life. A lot happens. I turn to God in those moments, even though I'm still not fully like, me and God are like this, like, you know what I mean? So I was doing whatever I was doing, and then I start having kids, and everything changes, and I'm led back to God because of my kids. And then 2019 comes along, and I go on this spiritual journey. And if I had gone on that spiritual journey in 2012, I would have never even have been approached by Chucky. Chucky wouldn't have been able to approach me if I had gone on my spiritual journey then. But because I was so worldly then, and not fully aware of how to even use discernment, because I had it, I was clearly ready to call things off, you know, like I'm not going on with this guy. But I didn't. And then I ended up in a whole heap of trouble 10, 11 years down the line, and throughout the entire relationship, right? So if I had gone on that spiritual journey in 2012, it would be a completely different bougie that you guys would be sat here looking at, because I would have known myself at least a little bit better than I did then. Because realistically, if you know yourself, you're not, it's not even so much that they won't be attracted to you, but you won't be attracted to them. If I had knew who the hell I was in 2012, I wouldn't even have put upon him, like literally, because I would have known that's not my kingdom husband. That's not my man. You know what I mean? But I didn't know myself. So now I'm here, and it is what it is. God will use me and use my situation to bless somebody else. And if that's what I'm here for, that's what I'm here for. So thank you so much for sharing. I think that you are so wise, like I said, and it's so important to hear in the spirit what to listen to, who to listen to, who's here for you, who's not here for you, if you're about to be in any kind of danger, where this situation is going to lead you to, if it's going to lead you anywhere but to damn hell. Because my situation led me to hell, okay? It's hell, okay? Because if this is not hell, then I don't know what is. But like, girl, anyway, yeah, like I said, you're super wise, and I love that for you. And I love that we just witnessed one of God's favorites, okay? Because Mama was literally about to be caught up in a mess, but that 6,000 miles saved you, girl. That 6,000 miles and everything else, and you knowing to pay attention to that, oh, bravo, girl. Because ooh-wee. Ooh-wee. Anyway, you guys, I love you all so much. I'll definitely see you in the next one.